Alright, so today we're going to be working on this, mostly because I just found out that I need to get tires for my other vehicle, and I don't really want to do that. So I've already started the process. We're replacing the headlight switch, which I already have, and they've verified it works. And I've actually already, taken the dash out because this is not a tutorial. But what we're really doing is these trucks are notorious for not having like rated parts for headlights, and I also believe the previous owner just put way too high draw of lights in. So the other thing we're going to be doing, and I'm actually going to, is we're going to be installing these probably crappy LED lights. It's the only thing I could get on rush order. I don't trust them, and I don't think they're going to give me the proper beam pattern, but I don't really drive this truck at night anyways. I just need headlights for the oddball occasion. But we're going to LED so that we can hopefully never have to do this job again. And these look kind of terrible. They're not nearly as nice as the ones I have in the Fiesta, and they cost half the price. So hopefully we'll be installing those too. And actually, I don't see a driver for these, so that's weird. Probably not going to film any of this just because I don't have a tripod or anything I can mount the camera up, and it's soldering, and I'd rather do like a full tutorial on that. See if you can actually see. So if I remember correctly, on this switch, one of the pins was like super loose. The switch itself doesn't really seem to be the problem, which is odd because that's like a really common failure point on these trucks. The other thing I need to do, this is the wiper switch, which I currently have to use a pair of pliers to work with. And that's fine, but it's not because I'm missing the knob. I found out today that the knob that came off of it just a few days ago no longer fits on it. I'm not 100% sure why. It's like enlarged quite a bit somehow. So I've got to figure out what to do about this, and I genuinely have no idea. Apparently I can't just like pause videos and lock my phone. Whatever. So if you are going to do this job, get yourself one of these with the pigtail already on it. I've seen people put spade connectors and stuff. Don't do that. This way you can cut all the wires, and worst case scenario, you've got more wire. A little tip, I never recommend doing this with the batteries plugged in, but this truck's terminals are kind of wore out and I don't want to take them off. So what you can do is, if you wire these one at a time and then heat shrink them, you won't short anything out. Hopefully. Do as I say, not as I do. A little tip, if you're forgetful like I am, cut your heat shrink tubing in advance and then place it on here, which I'm going to do in just a second, but I have a couple different size wires. That way, when your idiot self, like me, is busy with the soldering iron, and you make this nice little solder joint that's all nice and strong, and you look at it and you go, yeah, that's great. You don't then, like, hate yourself for not putting the heat shrink tubing on. Heat shrink tubing is really cheap, and also this allows you to screw it up ahead of time, because if I cut this wrong or anything like that, I can just recut it. No big deal. Right, one quick word on these things. They're kind of garbage. I bought one to give it a second try because I've used one years ago and hated it. They're still just as bad. This is what I got to work with today because I don't know where my other soldering iron is, but it's very difficult to tin leads with it because it's so awkward, and it doesn't like to stay lit, which is weird. So if you do find yourself using one of these because you don't have an extension cord because it rained and flooded your garage, I guess just be patient. It's going to take forever. With enough patience, you'll get a result that looks something like this. I mean, assuming it focuses, which it is not doing. Alright, so ideally, god damn it, focus. Point it at that target, maybe it'll focus. Ideally, you want a better solder joint than this. But that's secure. So, and I already know, like, it's just getting stuffed up in there. You might be rolling with that. Seriously, don't buy this thing. The continuous switch gets like hot enough to burn you for whatever reason. But with enough patience, your camera will be out of focus, but at least you can get decent solder joints. The only real problem with using this that I've found so far is because of the way it works, those vents on the side actually like pump heat out, and it'll start to melt the insulation on the wiring. And it's just really sketchy to use. Like, you can't one-hand it at all. Well, you can one-hand it, but you can't like have one wire in one hand, and you have to like twist everything ahead of time, which is kind of weird because I'm not used to doing that. But only like several more wires to go. Doing everything correctly, what should start to happen is you should have random neighbors of yours coming up and asking you to buy your truck, which is weird because, I mean, there's a little bit of rust under the truck too. It's a work truck, but only got like, what, 5 more wires? One of them's going to be a pain in the ass because it's huge. Yeah. I found that the best way to use that torch is just to overstrip these wires, twist them together so that they're like this, if this makes sense. And then obviously, if I haven't already said it, get yourself some flux. As long as it's for solder, it'll make your life so much easier. Don't use the solder that has flux in it because it's not enough. But you're going to put flux on both ends of the wire. And in some cases, I've actually been fluxing and tinning the torch just because it helps a little bit. And then hopefully by 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something, you might actually have headlights. After a brief moment of panic and seeing that you have 2 brown wires and only like one, you'll find the brown with white wire. It'll be hiding somewhere weird and all charred and weird. It's okay. It's okay. Also, don't be dumb like I am. If you buy cheap heat shrink tubing and you try to shrink it with a soldering iron, which is never a good idea, it'll fuck up your tip. Kind of like, well, I got most of it off, but kind of like that. But I'm not going to be keeping that anyways, so whatever. Almost done. 3 more wires, including the fucking challenge wire right here, which is so goddamn thick, I have no idea how that's going to work. I'm getting sick of how long this thing takes to heat up, so I'm going to preheat it with a bigger torch. Also, because some of the thicker wiring, like this last brown wire I just did, it literally takes forever to flow the solder, and I don't want to deal with that, so. Alright, so unsurprisingly, this joint did need some assistance from the torch, which kind of messed up the insulation, but there's not much I can do about that. I could not get the solder to flow with that little soldering iron. But it's mostly joined now. It's conductive, so I guess that's all that matters. It won't pull apart. So I'm going to let that cool while I mess with the headlights. So unsurprisingly, these came with no instructions or anything, but you need to undo that so you can fit it onto this ring. That's basically what you need to know. And it doesn't come with the tool. Alright, by some miracle, it appears everything's done right. So we just have to figure out the wiper thing, but I'm not going to do that today. In the event that you have to make a repair like this, it's a good idea to zip tie this together once you get everything like nice and insulated. And the reason being is what originally caused the problem with this truck was it was actually down here. The wires got worn out and just started jiggling around every time the truck bumped, which it does a lot. And since this is a major repair with a lot of joints and everything, what this will do is this will help keep those wires from flexing inside and hopefully make this repair last longer. Hopefully it's permanent, actually, because unless something terrible happens, I really don't have any intention on selling this thing. So, this thing's loose, but I'm pretty sure it was always like that. Everything works, it's loose, it's fine. I did manage to find a little insert for this, so now this is working, which is great. Headlights appear to work in every regard. I actually lied about those LED lights. They did come with a manual, but it's absolutely useless as it's poorly translated, and it doesn't actually say it'll work with this style, which would be great if they, had that listed up front. Why is this battery warm? Alright, so we're going to take it for a drive, or I'm going to take it for a drive. I'm not taking you guys, and take back that stupid torch, because that thing was awful. Straight up dangerous to use.